You're listening to episode 70 of Present Moment. Welcome to Present Moment, Mindfulness, Practice, and Science. I'm Ted Meissner. Present Moment is a podcast with interviews, conversations, and roundtable discussions. We speak with mindfulness teachers about their newest findings published in peer-reviewed science journals, teachers about their understanding and methods as they work with students of mindfulness, authors about their books and interests, and we also speak with everyday practitioners. The website presentmomentmindfulness.com has show notes for each episode along with resource materials. Ariel Garten speaks with us today about mindfulness and the brain-sensing headband Muse. What would it be like to have an auditory nudge to help you notice just as attention starts to wander? We've all been subject to that tendency for our minds to move, flitting from past to future and back again, rehearsing and rehashing, but rarely just settling into our experience just as it is right now. There are many opinions about using biometric devices to lend a helping hand as we develop attention, but whatever your thoughts on the matter, technology is providing new possibilities for the meditator to explore. Ariel Garten is the founder and chairman of Interaxon, makers of Muse. Ariel studied neuroscience at the University of Toronto and worked in labs at Toronto's Krembil Neuroscience Centre, researching Parkinson's disease and hippocampal neurogenesis. Ariel's uncommon combination of science and art is integral to the design of Muse and to Interaxon's unique approach to brain-sensing technology. Interaxon debuted with the creation of Bright Ideas, Ontario's feature showcase at the 2010 Winter Olympics, where visitors in Vancouver got to control the lights on the CN Tower, Niagara Falls, and the Canadian Parliament building with their minds from across the country. Special thanks to Anastasia Fox for her coordination of today's interview. Our guest today has also very kindly created a 15% discount for the listeners of this podcast in the United States and Canada. To receive the discount, just go to choosemuse.com and during the checkout process, enter the code PRESENTMOMENT. All capital letters and no spaces. Special thanks to Ben, Martin, and Tracy for coordinating this generous offer. Our guest today is Ariel Garten. Ariel, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Ted. It's an honor to be here.
Very glad to be speaking with you again. And let's start off by just having you tell us a bit about your background.
Sure. So my background is in neuroscience. I'm a trained psychotherapist, was in private practice for 8 years. And as a neuroscientist, worked in research labs from neurogenesis through Parkinson's disease. And I became interested in meditation as a neuroscientist, looking at all the incredible research that was available demonstrating how meditation really impacts the brain. And so this is a thing that really works. Simultaneously, I was working in a lab with brain-computer interface technologies and recognized that we had the ability to see what was going on inside our own minds using clinical grade EEG in very simple ways. And then with my team started to marry the two notions of neuroscience and EEG.
Excellent. Maybe before we talk about the device, let's chat a little bit about meditation's impact on the brain itself and what's in that rich topic of neuroplasticity.
There is so much. So there's now over 1,000 published studies in scientific journals talking about meditation's impact in a wide variety of ranges, from the ability to improve depression, anxiety, pain, improve GRE scores, change telomerase activity, and on and on. Specifically in the neuroscience literature, and there are a few great studies. Dr. Sarah Lazar leads a lot of this work, and she demonstrated that using meditation for simply 8 weeks can improve the density of your gray matter, which is quite significant. Another thing she looked at is the thickness of your prefrontal cortex. So as you age, your prefrontal cortex thins, but if you have a long-term meditation practice, you're likely to see maintenance of your prefrontal cortex thickness. So that means improved attentional control, organization, impulse inhibition, even as you age. The work of Dr. Judson Brewer looks at the default mode network, and that's the activity between your prefrontal cortex and your PCC, parietal cingulate cortex. And that's the sort of default mode that your brain is in when it's doing nothing. When you have somebody lie in an MRI and just lie there and rest, what you see is this default mode activity still going. And that's sort of your internal dialogue, that what we refer to as a monkey brain chatter. And meditation actually decreases that default mode. So that leads to the sensation of, quiet and peace that you have inside your brain. We also see great results like increase in left hippocampal volume. Hippocampus is your learning memory center. Decreased amygdala activity. Amygdala is your fight or flight response. And also increased activity in the empathy areas of your brain, like your temporal parietal junction. So we see both, amazing cognitive impact, emotional impact, and interpersonal and empathetic impact. Pretty spectacular.
Very well said. And for those listeners who are wondering why those names, Sarah Lazar and Judson Brewer, are familiar, they've been guests on the podcast talking about their work, and will be again. We'll have them on as regular guests. So thank you for mentioning them and their fantastic work.
Yeah, they've certainly been leaders in demonstrating the incredible impact that meditation has on our minds and interactions with the world.
So let's also segue a bit into another area, that of healthcare, with these kinds of effects that we're seeing and the studies that are occurring and improving in the quality of studies over time, over the past 30 some years. How is meditation impacting healthcare as a field?
So this is actually something that I'm brought into different health organizations to talk about regularly. Meditation, most people think of as this weird woo-woo thing, but as it gets brought into healthcare, you start to see some amazing impact. So there was one study that just came out of the Partners Healthcare System. So that's Mass General, Women's Brigham's Hospital, etc. And they looked at 4,400 people who'd gone through a relaxation response course at Benson Henry Institute. So it's basically meditation, yoga, prayer. And then they looked at their healthcare utilization compared to 13,000 controls the following year. And they saw for those that had an 8-week meditation course, 43% decrease in healthcare utilization over the next year, which is absolutely astounding when either you look at it from a personal perspective, how is this going to impact my health if I have half the amount of reasons to go to the hospital? And from a dollar value ROI perspective, if you are a healthcare organization or you're an insurer, or you're an accountable care organization that's now, has to pay based on how often people are not in the hospital versus how often they are in the hospital.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the effects I think it's 75 to 90% of visits to primary care physicians being for stress-related
illness.
Yep, absolutely. Think of what it would be like, just imagining for a moment, if you could do something on your own for free at any time to build up this kind of resilience, and seeing the changes that, Ariel, you're describing, and maybe not have to have those visits. What would the impact of that be just on the healthcare system and the costs to you as an individual? So let's also talk about how the idea for a portable EEG device came up. What was that like? What happened?
I was very interested in brainwaves as something that gave you real information about your brain, that was real technical data that was actually accessible, that gave you some way to sort of interact with the brain that's inside your head. Our brain governs everything that we do, depending on who you ask, but, you can make a reasonable argument. It governs, most of your phenomenological experience, but we have very few ways to interact with it, to affect it, to understand it, to touch it. It's, this invisible thing that just guides us through our life. And if we want the opportunity to ourselves become the guide, it's very difficult to change the relationship with your brain. So I started by using a primitive brain-computer interface system, just a single-channel EEG, to allow people to hear what went on in their own mind and then start to change that activity. So we started to create concerts where 48 people at a time would be able to make music by modulating their brain states. You could hear your EEG and then have it impact a musical score as you change your own brainwave activity by increasing your focus, by relaxing, by modulating your brain. And then from there, we recognized that this was pretty astounding, that we were, literally being able to hear and impact the brain in real time. And then we went on to make silly things like levitating chairs. As you would relax and the chair would rise. We let people control the lights in the CN Tower with their brain from across the country.
Meditation can be fun.
Yes, you can affect real world objects, not in a telekinesis kind of a way.
Yes,
there's a winch in the ceiling and a solenoid and a motor and an A to B converter. But your brain could really have this impact, and you could see and understand tangibly the impact. And then we recognized, of course, the most important impact that you have is that your mind can impact you and your own life. And so we set about developing a tool that would help people understand what went on in their own minds, and recognize the best way to do that was by helping people meditate. So we created this tool called Muse, the brain sensing headband. It's a clinical grade EEG with 2 sensors frontal and 2 sensors temporal, and it tracks your brain activity in real time while you meditate. And it gives you real time feedback on your meditation so that you know when you're in a state of focused attention and when your mind is wandering. And it really guides you through this experience, taking the, uncertainty. The world will always have uncertainty, but taking part of the uncertainty out of the system so that you can get a deeper understanding, a deeper insight into your brain and its process, and actually interact with it through your meditation experience.
So how does it work? What is it measuring? And then from the user experience, when they have the headband on, how do they know that their focus is being maintained?
So how it works is the 4 sensors are tracking your EEG, your brainwaves, and it's able to very finely discriminate when you're in focused attention and when your mind is wandered. So most beginning meditation practices are focused attention or shamatha-based practices. So you may be focusing your attention on your breath, on the sensation of your breath, you may be counting, you may be focusing on a single object like a candle or a mantra. And all of these activities are meant to hone our attention. And then once you've honed your attention, you can start to move it around the room and go into open monitoring and other practice styles. So really the core of many, many meditation practices is this honing of your attention. And there you're able to not be distracted by your own thoughts. You're able to manage whether you're in thought, whether you're focused on a single thing, etc. So what we do is we really guide you to that state of focused attention by letting you hear the sound of your own mind. And the metaphor we use is your mind is like the wind. So when you're thinking, distracted, mind wandering, you hear it as windy. And as you come to a state of clear, focused attention, you quiet those winds. And then you are really engaged for being able to stay in that state of quiet. You're given data, so you hear in real time what's happening to your brain. And then you can look back at your data and see when you were focused, when you were mind wandering. You can go back and have introspection on your experience with real data that you can look at that relates to what went on actually in your brain. And then there's a motivational architecture, challenges and things that keep you really engaged in your practice. So part 1 is establishing a practice. So if you've never meditated before, this really guides you through what to do, holds your hands, gets you on board. Part 2 is if you're already a meditator, this gives you a fascinating new insight into your own meditation, to really be able to hone that quality of attention, to understand when you're attending, when you're not, to be able to really have a new level of insight, a new mirror to hold up inside your own mind. And then 3 is sticking with your practice. So it's got, reminders and motivational architectures and challenges to keep you engaged and to keep coming back.
So what studies are currently using the Muse device?
So we actually have over 120 different research institutions that are currently using Muse. So we have tens of thousands of people that use it every day, which we can get to in a minute. But on the research side, Mayo Clinic is using it for a study with breast cancer patients awaiting surgery. So if you're a woman awaiting breast cancer surgery, you'll get a Muse around 4 weeks prior to surgery and use it to decrease the stress of that cancer care and surgery process. And then you'll also use it post-surgery to actually help through recovery times. And the study was so successful, we're about to present it at the American Cancer Association meeting. And Mayo has now rolled it out to each of their other sites, and they've opened it up beyond breast cancer, but to every patient awaiting surgery. So it's been amazing to see the impact that it's had there. Harvard and MIT are also using it with Spalding Rehab for patients with traumatic brain injury to see if meditation Muse has an impact in TBI. We have other research institutions using it for ADHD, because there has been previous research demonstrating the impact of meditation practice on ADHD. And now with a tool like this, you're actually able to make the process of focusing for a kid with ADHD so much more palpable and tangible. Because if you're a kid with ADHD, people yell at you all the time to focus, and you have no idea what it means. But when you can get the real-time feedback when you are focused, all of a sudden you can go, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do. Next time somebody says focus, you're like, oh yeah, do that thing where the wind goes down. So we consequently have a lot of adults using it but not that this is in any way a medical device or prescribed for ADHD, but people have been experimenting with it on their own. Then beyond that, another research institution using it for tinnitus, others using it for blood pressure, and literally on and on and on.
Now, you also mentioned lots of individual users are also tuned into the device and using it throughout the day. Say a little bit more about that.
So Muse is actually a commercially available consumer device, and we have literally tens of thousands of people that use it every day. Here in Canada, you can get it at Best Buy across Canada, in a couple of Best Buys in the US as well. And so people use it to either start their meditation practice, to hone their meditation practice, or to keep them on the bandwagon. And it's been like extraordinary. There's a studio in Hollywood that runs Muse meditation classes. So you can come in and sit in a room of 20 people and go through meditation practice while listening to the sound of your own mind in real time. Other people use it in the mornings when they wake up, either as their meditation practice or for a 5 or 7 minute session before their favorite practice to really just hone their focus and get them into the zone and drop in faster. Other people use it at night before they fall asleep to improve their sleep and sleep latency. Just constantly hearing from people about the ways that this has either helped them start a practice and see the improvement in their lives, or get deeper into it and be like, wow, what I tried to achieve in 5 years of meditation now is clear to me.
Ariel, what's one of your personal favorite stories of feedback or the effects of the Muse device that you'd like to share?
Oh my God, there are so many of them. Like really so many of them. I'm currently 8 months pregnant. And so for me, it's been an extraordinary tool to teach me how to relate to my body in a new way. I'm starting to get Braxton Hicks contractions. And now when a contraction comes up, I'm really able to maintain my attention elsewhere on my body and not get sucked into the pain or the fear or the concern or anything about it. On a similar, mommy vein, somebody told me that she was in the park with her kid. Her child's about 2.5 years old, and she'd only been using Muse for maybe a week or two at that point. And she had realized that for the very first time in her life, she was actually present with her kid. Every other time she was thinking about the grocery list, what she was going to make for dinner. She just hadn't realized that her mind was elsewhere. And by finally being able to recognize what it was like to actually be focused and present versus mind wandering, she was able to stand in the park and be like, oh my God, this is the first time I'm actually here with my kid in the most precious time possible. So that was amazing. And then we have lots of people who, of course, use it to, assist in helping them live with their anxiety, deal with stress at work. We actually have a ton of corporate programs going on now where employers bringing the tool to their corporations and they're able to use it with their teams. And I think, there's a lot of people who are bringing corporate meditation in, and it's fantastic, but it's really hard for an employer to understand the impact, and it's hard to keep people engaged and motivated. And so when you have a data-driven tool, all of a sudden you've got something that people can hold on to in a more tangible way.
Do you have plans for any future upgrades or new products you care to talk about?
So Muse is literally evolving each and every day. We push updates to the app every 2 weeks. There's courses inside of it. There's more courses that are growing. Deepak just did another course for us. We have another number of other amazing teachers that have built content that you'll be seeing in the Muse. So you are getting this real-time experience of your own brain, mind wandering versus focus. And then you're also getting these amazing teachers that, guide you and coach you through it. So it's been such an honor to build and to see the impact that it's had, and also to work with these extraordinary teachers to understand how we can build even more impact in people's lives.
And Ariel, is there anything else you'd care to share with the listeners? For example, we might have a discount available to the listeners of the podcast.
Sure. There's a lovely discount that you can share out with everybody. And if anyone's interested in more information, you can always, of course, reach out to me directly at Ariel_Garten is my Twitter, or go to the website to find out more.
Wonderful. Our guest today, Ariel Garten. You can find out more about this technology and her work at choosemuse.com. And of course, on the episode page for this episode, I'll be posting information about that discount we mentioned as well. Ariel, thank you so much for being here.
It is my absolute pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity to share.
Thanks for listening. If you'd like to learn more about something you've heard in today's podcast, please come visit the website at presentmomentmindfulness.com. You'll find an entire webpage devoted to this and every episode. You can comment on the episode page and find show notes and other helpful resources for your mindfulness practice. The shakuhachi music heard on Present Moment is used by permission and through the generosity of musician Rodrigo Rodriguez. His website is linked on the Present Moment website on the About Podcast Music page. Sound editing, mixing, and mastering provided by the generosity of Anthony Dominello of StructureFromSound.com. Until next time, remember, every moment you have a choice. Make it the best you can. See you next time on Present Moment.